Hello everyone, I hope you're well. I'm a bit croaky tonight, guys, have to excuse us. Dylan's ill, well, he's under the weather and coughing, I'm croaky. And also, I learned a very important lesson tonight. If anyone does anything like this, goes on a video call at work or whatever and has psoriasis, don't put steroid cream on your hands and then proceed to try and clean your glasses. That was the worst idea I've ever had, and now all I can see, it's like someone's put Vaseline on my eyeballs. I can't see a thing. So there's a very niche life lesson for you all. I hope you're all well, guys. Thank you for so many people dropping in. Oz, great to see Oz in here. He was here hours before we went live. So welcome in, Oz. Great to see you, mate. Thank you for joining. Welcome in, Nia. I'm loving the pink hands emoji. I've not seen that one before. Aidan, welcome in. Oh, we got official snuffle today, guys. So we better behave ourselves. Aidan's come with his official account. I hope you're well, mate. How's it going? Clara's lurking. No worries, guys. Big thank you to everyone who lurks. We say this a lot over on Twitch, but it applies here on YouTube. If all you do tonight is have us on in the background and click the thumbs up under the picture of my face to help other people find us, that's amazing. If you take something away from it just by listening in the background, that's amazing. For everyone that gets involved in chat, thank you. As you know, it helps the algorithm, it helps more people find us, but more importantly, it helps you guys build community and support each other and get to know each other and share experiences. But for all the people that have just got us on in the background, like Clara and Nia and that tonight, I really appreciate it. I know life is busy. And also, guys, I probably should just led with right at the top to everyone in the UK and where else in the world celebrates today. Happy Mother's Day. Big shout out to Nia Cheeks, because I'm doing this on Mother's Day when she has worked all day after the clocks went forward last night. So she got 1 hour less sleep, and she's now having to deal with putting Dylan to bed and moderate this YouTube channel at the same time on Mother's Day. So I'm sure that I am going to be reminded. I did buy a big box of chocolate, but I don't know if that's probably enough for all the hats that she's wearing tonight. So a big shout out, and to everyone, you know, Mother's Day can mean many things to many different people. So for all the people where that is a painful thing or a reminder or a memory, we're here for you guys. Lean into us either in chat, or you can find us via our peer support Discord community, where a lot of these wonderful people you're seeing talking here at the minute are there all week talking about. We've just started a camera club on there. If anyone wants to share photos, that's been great, seeing people sharing their photos. So if anyone wants to get involved there, if you're busy right now, take a screenshot, come back to it later if you're on your phone or whatever. But yeah, come find us over there during the week, where a lot of these wonderful people are supporting each other day to day, and then they also somehow give up their time to join me on a Sunday night. I'm forever grateful for all of the regulars, guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you're all doing okay. No more snuffle. Welcome in, Cindy. I hope you're good. I hope the chat goes well. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. For a second there, I thought you were talking about with Nia Cheeks after this. Yeah, thank you. The interview. That's what you're all here for, obviously. Have I missed anyone else in chat? Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen. There we go. That's better. So yeah, if you're here for the first time, guys, welcome in. Thank you. We get lots of people that pass by just for the topic or the guest, and maybe that's the last time they come, or it's the first time they come. So if you're here, welcome. I hope you're well. So the format is I let everyone drift in like they are now, and then we'll get the interview started in a moment. When we do the interview, the chat will come off screen because one, it keeps our guests safe, it stops any idiots ruining a video, but it also means we can just focus on the topic. But that doesn't mean you have to stop talking. Please do keep it going in chat, guys. As we mentioned earlier, it is the big driver. Hitting that thumbs up on live streams, which you haven't done yet on your watching on YouTube, please do. And chat are the two biggest things that help new people find us live whilst we're live. And if you can't stick around, that's absolutely fine. The minute this live stream ends, the whole thing, start to finish, with whatever mistakes I make, will be available on wherever you're watching now. So yeah, I hope you're all good, guys. And just to shout out, like, you know, we get 4 times as many people watch the video in the week after we were live than we do the live stream. We know not everyone's around on a Sunday night. People have got stuff to do. We're here on a Sunday night in the hope that we can help people escape a little bit on a Sunday. Maybe you're not looking forward to Monday. Maybe the week ahead is a sort of anxious one. That's why we started out on being on the Sunday night slot. And we're also very grateful for our friends from around the world who join us at all sorts of times, like today when it's in the middle of their day and everything. Welcome in, Deb, and I hope you're good. That stream didn't refresh when it started. Yes, YouTube does that sometimes, Oz. If you're in really early, sometimes you'll notice you'll be behind. So give your YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, give it a refresh. We found that out when we done an 8-hour charity stream. We got about halfway through it and people were like half an hour behind. It's a YouTube thing. There isn't a lot we can do about it. I'd just say just refresh your screen and you will be back with us in real time. But yeah, welcome in, guys. Hope you're all good. Yeah, we're going to be joined by a returning guest tonight. It's always lovely when we have a returning guest. One, because I tend to be a bit less stressed during the day and anxious and everything. Because believe it or not, this stuff still terrifies me after however many shows we've done. But it's also just a really nice thing when you guys ask for somebody to come back. It's a real compliment to them. It's a bit of a compliment to the channel. Yeah, it's just lovely. So really looking forward to this one tonight, guys. And yeah, I hope you're all good. I think I've normally got some admin to tell you, but I haven't. There's some stuff about upcoming shows, but we'll pick that up after the interview. But yeah, please do keep the chat going. So what we'll do, let's get ourselves ready to bring our guest in. Let's kill the music, as we always do. We will take the chat off screen. So like I say, wherever you are chatting, guys, you will be able to carry on doing that on the platform you're on with the people that are also watching on that platform. So if you're watching on Facebook, you will see the comments from other people on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, where you can see most of the people are tonight, you can carry on conversing and we will feature the best ones. So please do keep your comments coming in so we can pop them up on screen, give you a bit of a shout out and a thank you for engaging, but also maybe encourage other people to get involved in chat. And I've run out of time to ask you from where you're all watching from, so if you want to let me know that in the chat whilst we're started, that'd be great, because it's always nice to know where people are joining us from around the world. Right, that's probably enough from me. So I'm delighted to bring back for the second time in quick succession Jamie Nicole. Welcome in. I hope you're well.
Thank you so much for having me back a second time.
Oh, it's absolutely. I listened back to our conversation this morning just to sort of refresh myself from my notes, and it was fabulous. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing you speak again. Obviously, for people might be listening to these back to back, so I haven't given you like a formal introduction there. But for anyone that isn't, and maybe they're jumping in tonight live for the first time, do you want to maybe just introduce yourself a little bit and maybe some of the titles you have?
Of course, as it states on the screen, and as Joel mentioned, my name is Jamie Nicole. I am a certified autoimmune protocol coach. I'm also a fitness instructor. My main focus now is for those with limited mobility. I teach that quite often, and it's the best thing, the highlight of my week every week. I absolutely love it, and it benefits myself as well. I'm also a guest host for the Arthritis Foundation podcast. And I'm also an advocate. One of the things that has really helped me on my journey, not just the physical, it's mental as well, is being able to advocate for not only myself, for others. So I just did that. I also do that and just came back from DC doing some, I guess, advocacy with the Autoimmune Association. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being able to share my story and what I do in hopes that it will help others.
Oh, brilliant. And I'm so glad you've done that, because I absolutely would have done you a disservice and missed one of those titles. So thank you so much for going through that. And amazing with the DC trip. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And as everyone could see, you wear a lot of hats. So I'm very grateful for you giving up your time live on a Sunday to rejoin me for a second time.
No problem.
I obviously when you were last on the show, we talked in depth about sort of community advocacy, your experience with health conditions. So we probably won't go too much back into those. But for
Mhm.
anyone that's maybe joined us for the first time tonight live or listening to this maybe out of order, um, would you mind just resharing like an overview of the health conditions you live with, as it'll then give a good bit of context before we go and talk about some of your sort of work?
Absolutely, a good bit of context because this was not
It wasn't
my
this.
initial life plan,
No.
as with us, right?
Yep.
It was not my life plan. I had gone to school, had gotten my master's in accounting, and I started out on this journey. And I don't remember if I mentioned this last time. I was just trying to lose a little weight. Um, and long story short, ended up finding out when I went to the doctor um, that I had impacted my thyroid. So that's why it didn't matter whether or not I ate a salad or a donut. It didn't matter. And also kind of me the background history of why I had so many other issues that I thought were normal. They
Yeah.
were common, but they weren't normal. The issues, the brain fog, to name a couple of them. And long story short, I was still working in corporate America. After I got my diagnosis, I thought that I had the quote unquote solution, was able to get better for a short period of time. But then the fatigue plagued me. And I hear that oftentimes with those with
Mhm.
autoimmune disease. No matter what the autoimmune disease is, the fatigue is something that is just detrimental to your life because you can't function to do the things you need to do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So, long story short, 4 years later, after my first diagnosis, I got diagnosed with narcolepsy type 2, which is not as, I guess, they consider type 1 an autoimmune disease, but not type 2. But most of the people that I know with autoimmune disease have type 2. The only difference is that I don't have the common symptom that most people would recognize, where I fall asleep on with extreme emotion, whether it be good emotion or sad emotion. So had I had that symptom, I probably would have gotten diagnosed a lot earlier instead of at the age of 39. And then in retrospect, I was having symptoms at least in high school, if not before high school. So for a long time, I thought that these symptoms were normal. Finally thought I got that under control, Joel, and everything was fine. But when you have one autoimmune disease, they come in multiples.
I'm
So
only smiling because I can relate. It's not because I'm evil. I need to know where this is going.
yeah, another one. So after that, still having joint issues, frozen shoulder. I wake up, I go to bed, I'm fine. Wake up, is something wrong? The doctor's asking me what I did. I'm like, I did nothing. I just went to bed, and I woke up, and something wasn't working. So I started with that in 2018, and I guess what was it, 2023, a couple years ago. Long story short, got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis that started in my shoulders. Ended up having two shoulder surgeries back to back,
Wow.
and now here I am. And hopefully, there's nothing else. I guess what was that, 2027? Check back in with me. Hopefully, there's nothing else since we're on a 4-year pattern. And so I've been managing that for a while now. Every diagnosis has been a different hurdle, because they're all so different in nature. But I have a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom to share to those who have experienced the same thing or similar symptoms.
You certainly do, and it was because it was in sharing that and the little glimpses we got of the way you look at it, your outlook and everything. Which is why I'm sure I had so many requests to get you back to carry on the conversation because obviously we talked a lot about community and support and helping others and all this sort of thing. We also talked a lot about your medical conditions, and I'm sorry that we had so many to talk through, to fill for yourself. I'm
There's a lot.
sorry, like but they are like buses sometimes, especially in
Mm.
autoimmune. So yeah, so tonight it'd be amazing if we could talk more about what it is you do. Yeah, so maybe we could start off by talking a little bit about what an AOP coach is and that approach, and then we can get on or get into the thick of what it is you do to help people, because we heard so much about why you do it probably on the last on the last chat we had, and we never got a chance to actually get into it. So do you want to maybe start by telling us a little bit about what that role is, what AOP stands for, and how you help?
Yeah, absolutely. Autoimmune protocol is what AIP stands for, and it's a protocol that focuses on, and we call it diet, but it's really not a diet. It is a tool that we use to find out what are the foods that are triggering our flare ups, which are different for everyone, every person, no matter what autoimmune disease that you have. So it's based on the concept of elimination phase, where we take this list of inflammatory foods, whether it be gluten, grains, dairy, nightshades, etc., coffee, chocolate, and we eliminate those for a period of time to get our body back to a state of, I don't want to say calm or neutrality, but so we're not having as many flares. For some
Mhm.
people, that is 30 days. For some people, that is a lot longer. And then there is a gradual reintroduction in the quote unquote reintroduction phase. We reintroduce those foods one by one, and along with journaling, can kind of determine if we have a reaction. A lot of the clients that I was seeing before didn't realize or make a connection to them going to happy hour on a Friday and having chips and salsa and them having an ankle flare up or swelling in their ankle. Or for me, you talked about psoriasis earlier, which is a topic for a different day. I have I'm starting to get the rash on my
Oh,
arm, so I'm wondering if
sorry.
it's something. It's always something, Joel. I'm wondering if it's something related to a new allergy or trigger that I have. And so really it also, the most important part of that, which a lot of people don't focus on, is the nutrient density portion of it. It's not necessarily about what you cut out. It's about what you're including in your diet. So focusing on eating those whole foods and making sure that you have a well-rounded diet is I believe the foundation of an autoimmune protocol diet. And then also what we have seen before is people eliminating a lot of those foods and not adding them back in. But again, when we talk about nutrient density, just because it isn't good for, it may cause a flare in someone else or is a trigger for someone else, doesn't mean it's necessarily a trigger for you.
Mhm.
Those foods do have a nutrient content in them that's beneficial to your body, and a lot of disease is caused by a lack of nutrient density, not getting the minerals that we need, not getting the vitamins that we need for our body to sustain itself. And again, I do want to make clear, because I don't ever want to be the person who gives misinformation. And I also hear a lot of times that it reverses it. That's
Mhm.
not what this is. That's
Yeah.
not what's going to happen.
So glad you've said that.
That's not what's going to happen at all. It is just a tool to help you manage it in that particular time frame that you're in. And I say time frame because, again, and I won't go into all of that, I have a lot of allergies. So sometimes those foods change. Sometimes I
Yeah.
could be having a reaction to something that's not on the list at all. But at least for me, when I was managing and learning about the autoimmune protocol, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. When you have, issues with any type of chronic illness, not just autoimmune disease, for me, the mental part was not being in control. It felt as though I was losing control of my body. I was losing control of my mind with the brain fog, with the fatigue. Having tools in my tool belt to where I can say, okay, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad week. How can I mitigate that some? I know if I eat this or eating in excess, it's going to cause an issue for me. It's going to cause a flare for me. But at least I know that information and I can put systems in place to mitigate it. So that's the basis of the autoimmune protocol diet. Again, finding what your particular food triggers are, and eliminating those so you can better manage your flares that are related to food. And so for me, and they differ for every autoimmune disease, every person. For me, and for most autoimmune diseases that I see, gluten is the main one.
Yeah.
Um, Me personally, I don't have. If I accidentally eat gluten, it's not going to be a big deal. But if I had another autoimmune disease like IBD, celiac disease, Crohn's and colitis, that may be more of an issue. It really does vary by the person, and it also varies by the autoimmune disease that you have.
Yeah.
For me, those triggers are fatigue. For me, those triggers are rashes. I get rashes in my arm. Topic for a different day. I haven't got an official diagnosis, but
Yeah.
it just started happening. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm eating something. Because
Mhm.
sometimes with autoimmune disease, you always think it's something else that's popping up because oftentimes it
Yeah,
is.
you do.
Um,
Or I find you do the complete opposite, where you put everything down to the thing you already got a diagnosis for, and then beat yourself up for overlooking an obvious
yeah,
change. But yeah, conversation for
absolutely,
another day.
absolutely. So things like that swelling. I've noticed a big one was swelling in my back because I also have osteoarthritis
Mhm.
in my back and in my shoulders. So and I have rheumatoid arthritis as well. So if I eat certain things, I notice that I have a change in the how my body feels in general and how my joints feel in general. So those are some of the symptoms that I have when I am not managing what I eat properly or I eat that's a trigger.
Yeah. And you touched upon something I was going to ask as a follow up question later, so I might as well I'll say it now. As somebody, like I say, I've got triggers. I know what some of those are: stress, certain types of alcohol, things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
what I've also found is as I've got older, with autoimmune disease, there's more triggers, there's more allergies. Just last night we had a meal and my face was beetroot and I was itching. I had to take an antihistamine and go to bed early. And the issue I find, and maybe you can talk about how with your coaching work you work through that. I know you talked about eliminating, but maybe we can go into a bit more detail. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I find it so hard to know where to start that, where to trace that back, because I know I don't do things great, and maybe my diet isn't brilliant, and I maybe I'm not the perfect patient. That's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely true. Um, but it can feel like and like you're at the bottom of Mount Everest in trying to wind back and find out what the exact cause was. And the trouble is, you wake up the next day and maybe that allergy is past, whatever, and you don't do nothing about it and you move on. So, can you maybe talk a little bit about that process and how you keep people on task and, and motivated to find the root causes?
No problem. So there's a couple of things with that, and I'm sure you probably heard this before. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before. The number one thing is going to be journaling.
Hmm.
Absolutely, positively, one of the best things you can do. And me also, another layer of that for me personally is keeping up with my medical records. There are things that I had looked at by doctors 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that were random, and I had no clue that they were connected to other things related to my health. But as I got older, Joel, no, I'm not sure if it's the same for men as it is for women. You're mixing perimenopause and all that kind of stuff in there. It's just a lot going on. So
Yeah.
going back and being able to track not only your medical records, but your journals of what you ate and when. You mentioned stress. Stress
Yeah.
is a big trigger for
Yeah.
me. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the other major component of AIP. It's not just food.
Hmm.
So we have a circle of key components. And one portion of that is diet. The other is movement. The other is stress. The other is sleep. The other is gut health. If those things are in balance, all right, forget it.
Yeah.
Let's take food out of the picture altogether. If those things aren't in balance, you're going to have issues with your triggers.
Yeah.
And so with autoimmune disease, again with the food, everybody is different. And there is a bell curve, and that bell curve will change, which makes it a little more complicated. But with autoimmune disease and chronic illness, it's a long game and not a short game.
Hmm.
And so the bell curve is if I, for example, with sleep, if I get too, no, let me use movement. If I get too little movement versus getting too much movement, getting too little movement can cause a flare, and so can getting too much movement. But how that impacts you is different for every person and different for every stage of life. And so I'll give this example. I mentioned that I currently teach fitness for those with limited mobility.
Hmm.
It's still a high impact class. You're going to get a sweat, but it's not as intense as what I used to do. What I have found after I had the surgery or before I had the surgery, I was all over the place. I would get up in the morning, I would go running or jogging early in the morning, go to two other fitness classes, and would be fine for the rest of the day. I had the surgeries in 2023. My bell curve has now changed. I can no longer do the things that I once did before surgery. I'm not sure if it was a specific, I guess, trigger from the surgery, medication that I had afterwards that's still lingering. I thought I was going to be able to jump back right into the routine that I had before. It was at that time mind over matter. But when I jumped into it, Joel, my body was like, girl, you are not the same person that you used to be. And that in and of itself, you talk about bell curves, is stressful, because remember I mentioned the mental toll that it takes, because you don't have control over your body. But I had to learn a new normal and find new things. So instead of running, now I've now gotten into hiking. I have bought some hiking boots, Joel. I have trekking poles because my knees are bad. I can't be unleveled, but I still get the same amount of work. I still get to be with community. It's just that I know my body, pay attention to my body. And sometimes, and maybe others in the audience can understand and relate to this, oftentimes it's not can I, it's should I.
Yeah.
Right? When you're talking about that bell curve, I could go and run a 5K. I could go and run a 10K, but how is my body going to react afterwards? Mm-hmm. And I used to make that mistake before and not be able to function for a few days. But now that I know that, I can modify my exercise routine, still get the same amount of exercise that I got before, still get the same enjoyment from it, but I understand at any given point where I am on that bell curve. So I'm same thing for stress, putting those systems in place. I absolutely know when I am stressed, I feel it some people feel it in their shoulders, my lymph nodes swell up.
Yeah.
And I can catch that early and be like, well, no, and when the time it gets to my lymph nodes, I know who it is or what it is that's stressing me out. And I
have you started with who it is.
I have to put that in check really fast, because I'll have a hard time coming out of that. I know the impact on me with autoimmune disease, chronic illness, whatever you have, is a lot worse for somebody else than somebody else who doesn't have that. I'm not able to bounce back fast. I can be in bed for a couple of days when I get to that point, Joe. Mm-hmm. Now it's starting to impact the things that I need to do on a daily basis, and I can't let it go there. But now I'm aware of that. I used to not be aware of that with my body and pay attention, because I know it's different in the UK. But over here in the US, I've heard a lot of times that we are on a system of go, go, go. There is no relaxation. And so I was like, I need to start living the European life. Just, just coming and going and living life freely and not letting anything stress me out, whether it be work, family, or otherwise, and slowing down a little bit, which I think a lot more people would benefit from. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, recognizing those triggers are so key. Like you said about stress, mine is my jaw. I clench my jaw, and by the time my jaw aches at the end of a working day, I know it's too late. I've already been stressed for several hours. And then I don't know about you, it's breaking that cycle, isn't it? Because if I'm then stressed, the chances are that night I don't sleep as well. I then maybe make worse choices with my diet the next day. I go for convenience food and things like that because I'm fatigued, and then off you go, and you're going down that slope quicker than you can sort of slow yourself down. So so what maybe even just from a personal experience or through the coaching, how do you sort of try and you recognize the triggers, but then how do you break that cycle? Because that's obviously the hard bit, isn't it?
Absolutely. Part of it was for me, after I became a certified coach. This was right when we were in COVID. Had nothing else to do. So I was like, why not? Type A, let me just go ahead and get another certification. And I had kind of dabbled in AIP and reduced gluten, but I hadn't gone full all in.
Yeah.
So when I was having issues with my medication, my health was getting worse from the narcolepsy, I was like, something's got to give. So I went all in after I got certified and had the information and the tools, and did a full elimination diet for myself. Also did some other things along with that, focused on nutrient density, focused on adequate amounts of sleep. The stress level was a little bit lower because we were on quarantine, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And when I had that transformation, again, remember I told you at the beginning, I had Hashimoto's, which impacts my thyroid and my
Hmm.
hormones. So it didn't matter if I ate a salad or a donut. I'm
Yeah.
teaching 5 classes a week, high intensity exercise. I'm running, putting the picture together. I'm doing all the things that we were told we were supposed to do, but I was still feeling like crap, and the medication was making it worse. Once I felt the benefits, actually felt, and felt that I had more control um, over my life. Again, I can't control my health 100%, but I had tools. That's when things absolutely changed for me. Um, when I could not lose weight at all, and mind you, I wasn't doing it to lose weight.
Hmm.
Before I did it, when I was on the medication, trying to just figure out what was going on with my body, I would be sitting down and my heart rate would spike to 143 without me doing anything. Like I was going to see a cardiologist, and I was just like, this cannot be the rest of my life. I felt as though I had no choice. And if I did nothing, how would my life be 10 years from now? I had to do something, right? A
Yeah.
lot of times when we have chronic illness, you can get into the mindset of woe is me. This is how it's going to be. And I just absolutely refused to go down that road, because if I did nothing, how would I be 5 years down the road? But if I did something, where would I be? And so, long story short, again, not counting calories, focusing on fueling my mind, body, and soul, reducing my stress and my sleep, focusing on my food. I lost 70 pounds in about 6 months.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Joel.
Yeah. I would be very proud of
You know,
that.
but I felt it to go from waking up every day in tears, just praying that you find some relief, or praying that you find some answer, and feeling like you had no control over your life whatsoever. I was depressed.
Hmm.
I had anxiety. I could not do my job. Even in COVID, I would try to walk from my bedroom to my office that I'm in right now. I had never had issues with anxiety. I had never had issues with depression. I was hyperventilating just trying to get to my office because I did not know how I was going to continue to function to do my job. So I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier how it can it's impacting my life, my livelihood. It's going beyond health. It's going back beyond to I either don't have a diagnosis, I can't control my diagnosis. If I can't control my diagnosis or control my symptoms, I can't do my job. If I can't do my job, they're going to fire me. So now, Joel, you talk about stress.
Yeah.
I worked I worked for the government at the time. Single mom, 2 kids. What am I going to do? So it was making everything worse. So just
Hmm.
being able again to have that control and figure out what's going on with your body, um, and feel as though I had again some control was an absolute game changer for me. A lot of times with quote unquote diets, we're doing it for some type of physical change, but for me, I needed to change my life because it was going downhill fast. And I'm so glad that I did. And even in those experiences, I mentioned earlier why I advocate. Um, I had access to the information. I had access to resources. And it was still hard.
Hmm.
It was very hard. I hear y'all joke around a lot overseas about us Americans living as though we have free healthcare, and we don't. And so for me, I'm doing all that I can to try to take care of myself, um, and being able to share those tools with others, and help them remove some of those barriers through coaching, is what I strive for. So to go more into your question, it varies by person. And so that is really the importance of having a coach. There is so much misinformation I see online
Yeah. Yeah.
that can make the process so stressful. Um, Saying to someone who gets comfort from food, or We talked about the AIP BIPOC network. There are a lot of cultural foods that you have to eliminate during that time span while on doing the elimination portion of that diet. So being able to help walk the client through that process, find alternatives. So we're not making dietary changes for improvement, but putting more stress on the person in the meantime, because it's like, okay, I can't eat any of the things that I normally eat. What can I eat? We help with that as well. There's a new modified version of the AIP diet because some people were thinking it was too difficult and not wanting to do it at all. So there's ways to modify it. And if it's not working, what else is the coach able to see that you're not able to see? I've had a lot of clients that it wasn't so much the food, but it was their teaching job and the stress from that, not only from the kids, but from the administration that was causing their flares. And what did they do? Every single day, happy hour. What's that happy hour? Their favorite happy hour, Mexican food. The majority of the foods that cause flares. And she had no clue because she was like, my ankle swells up every weekend. Or you're going to have chips and salsa with nightshades and gluten and grains from the chips and alcohol. So now that she was fueled with that information or had the tools with that information in it, she can better manage her flares and her triggers. And then if that doesn't work, there's other things, FODMAP diet, histamine diet. What are the other things that we're missing that we can include to help go through the process of elimination faster, so we can help get you answers faster?
Yeah. And like I say, it's not just the educating the individual, because we're experts in our experience. We're not experts in, and you mentioned earlier, actually, like you had the information, you can still sort of go off path. And I was thinking when you were saying that, how, somebody that has regular therapy for depression, anxiety, etc., only takes me 3 weeks of seeing a professional for them to point out what then seems really obvious that I was doing, or how I had slipped. And you feel like a fool, but it does take that somebody from the outside to be able to put it to you from a different perspective for you to then see. But one of the other things I was just going to ask you before we move on is that holistic approach to your conditions, that's got to be so much healthier, because as somebody that used maybe one of those tools, like for a lot of years I used sport, and sport was the way I stayed healthy and fit and active. It ticked all my social boxes and everything, until I couldn't play sport, and then it fell down like a house of cards, because I didn't need to worry about diet. I didn't need to worry about sleep. I didn't need to worry about where else I got my sort of mental and social enrichment and stimulation from, because everything was bundled into this one activity until I wasn't physically able to do it again. So yeah, just while you were saying that earlier, it just made me think about how much of a healthier approach that must be. I don't know if you've got any examples, or if you can talk a little bit about that, by having all of that sort of well-rounded approach. As life happens and we get thrown curveballs and our conditions change, you can kind of balance it out a bit better, I would imagine, than my naive approach of just throwing all my eggs into one activity.
Yeah, I think I know what your question is. For me, and feel free to redirect if I'm wrong. Building community in different areas has worked for me. Joel, I can't. I don't think I could do another half marathon. Mentally, I want to.
Yeah.
But putting all of the eggs in that one basket and not being able to do that anymore, I didn't want to go through that again, because that mentally, it was just like your whole world is crashing because you have all of your eggs in that one basket. And also too, because this journey, I always say, is not linear. It's even with holistic approaches, even when combined with medicine, it's not, you can do everything right. And I know this might not be a popular opinion, but it's mine. You can do everything right and still have a flare. So on those peaks and those valleys, I have something that can still keep me motivated. I have something that can still help me preserve my mental health. So if I go running, I can do line dancing. If I can't do tennis, I can do pickleball. If I can't get out of the bed, I know how to stretch and roll from side to side, because sometimes that's all I can do. And then if sometimes that's all I can do, that's all I need to do.
Yeah.
Focusing on what your body needs, right? Because we always say, go out and do a community assessment, see what the community needs before we just go out to the community and give them these things that we think that they need. Same thing with your body. My body does not need to do a half marathon every month. If your body can't do something, it's telling you it can't do that thing for a reason. And so we need to listen to that and also understand that mentally we're doing what's best. Mentally, we're doing what it needs at that time, even if it's not what we think, or even if it's not what we normally would do.
Yeah.
You're doing what it needs, not necessarily for the moment, but for the long term. I want to be able to move 30, 40 years from now. I was telling my seniors and the people that I teach, I'm not too sure my kids are going to roll me over down the line. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to prevent as long as possible from being put into a nursing home. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm running and jogging all the time. I'm preserving my body. And sometimes that preservation is not through exercise, it's through rest. And once I got that in my mind and I understood that restoration and recovery is just as, if not as important as movement, especially for those type A personalities who are on the line, those gym rats who are on the line, or whatever activity it is that you used to do and you can no longer do, understand that you have to give yourself grace. Just like we want others to give us grace on this journey. I think that's a conversation that we oftentimes have. People don't understand that I can do things sometimes and I can't. But what about you? Do you understand that sometimes you can do things one day and the next day is not so much?
Yeah.
And that's okay. Making sure that you have, again, tools in your toolbox, and sometimes that's rest on those days when your body needs it the most.
Yeah. And it's really hard, isn't it? Because it's a grief thing. And like, I have it where there'll be sometimes I'll get my bike out and I'll be able to cycle 50 miles and really surprise myself. And other times my wife's picking me up after 10 miles from the side of the road and I'm completely downtrodden, bro. But like, I'm just miserable over it, and trying to remind yourself that it's the nature of what you're living with. And I think when you say things, you've done this on the last show, which is exactly why we asked you to come back. So thank you. When you say things like, you can have all the tools and your condition can still put you in that place, or in a world where everything seems to be telling people like me with my condition, and I'm sure you see it as well, that it was something you did wrong. It's so refreshing to hear someone in your line of work say that. That's an inevitable bump in the road that we're going to hit every now and then. So thank you for sharing that, because I know there'll be lots of people that need to hear that.
No, absolutely. I could just I didn't mention, as I said, it's always something. This is not related, but kind of related. And maybe the ladies who are on the line can relate. I just had to have a hysterectomy last, what was it, November?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to what we were mentioning earlier, knowing your body in the bell curve. And I knew better. I couldn't do much because I had a hysterectomy. So I was sitting for a long period of time doing work, much like we're doing now. You said you had an 8-hour fundraising telethon.
Yeah, we've done a few of those over the years. Yeah.
so I did that. I did that, Joel. I sat by my computer for a long time because I was just trying to catch up on work. When I tell you, I stood up and I could not move. I could not step down for 2 days. I was on a cane. So when I say it's not linear and there are ebbs and flows, I absolutely still go through it myself as a coach. Even the mentality or the mental part of the journey as a coach, a lot of times we don't want to say it, and I've talked to other coaches because we're in this profession and we're supposed to be giving advice. And that does not mean you're not human. That does not mean things don't happen. You're going to have days where it feels difficult and it feels heavy. But again, having those tools, whether it be, gratitude, whether it be, meditation, whatever affirmations, it's hard, but having those tools and practicing that before things get bad do make the world of difference.
Yeah, it really does. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm conscious we're on round 2 of these interviews, and we're somehow pushed for time again. So before, no, it's brilliant. Like, no, it's not you at all. I should be I should be able to guide it better. But I think there's just so much you have to share, and I'm so happy to just listen to all of it and consume all of it. so I want to give you an opportunity, just so I haven't taken that from you for a second time, to talk about the AIP BIPOC network. So I don't think we got onto this at all in part one. So if you can maybe introduce that to us and tell us a little bit about what that does.
Yeah, I'll briefly mention that. So it's the autoimmune protocol BIPOC network, and it started out mostly with the autoimmune protocol holistic approaches. I also mentioned diet. So there's other things, I guess, culturally that we have to take out when we're doing the autoimmune protocol. So that's a little bit different than others. Another big part of the autoimmune protocol, as we mentioned, is stress. It may be more so here in the US, especially now, than it is in other parts of the world. But people of different backgrounds, of different cultures, experience stress and trauma differently. And we know that trauma is a trigger for autoimmune disease, and stress is a trigger for flares. So there needed to be a different conversation had around that. And long story short, I didn't do it. After I found out, finally got my health under control, and my daughter was going to be out of the house. I wanted to be, living my life. But God kept telling me in the back of my head, remember what you said and promised when, you were going through it. So long story short, I partnered with, I guess, a entity called AI Summit, who's with Jamie Hartman, who is also a certified autoimmune protocol coach. And she partners with, I'm not sure if you've heard, an organization called Autoimmune Wellness, autoimmunewellness.com. They're the one who provided me with the certification, along with Dr. Sarah Ballantyne, who came up with the AIP protocol. She did a summit, and she had a BIPOC roundtable, which had discussions from all different backgrounds, whether it be Asian, Black, Hispanic, about their experience with autoimmune disease, getting a diagnosis, the barriers and hurdles that they had to go through in order to get a diagnosis, and how that impacted them. And, I'm a Black woman, but hearing those stories from the lens of somebody else's perspective from another culture really, I guess, touched me, number one. And I felt as though it was a conversation that needed to continue. I didn't want to do it, so I reached out to Jamie Hartman, who did the summit, and I asked if anyone else was doing it so I can help support. She said no, but if you want to continue the conversation, you can. And she gave me her platform to do so. So it started out as roundtables. It did not start out as a nonprofit. She was continuing after the January summit to have continuing roundtables each month on different topics, general topics. So the things we talked about, the sleep, the stress, the diet, the movement, but it wasn't specific to Black and brown people and people of color. So I started doing that in June of 2022. Autoimmune Wellness was on that first conversation, and they decided to support us going forward. That led us to creating an online community where we post recipes, where we have conversations related to removing barriers that one may face. Again, I mentioned earlier, I had resources. I had good government insurance, I had money, but I still face many barriers. So I thought, what about the people who don't have this type of access?
Yeah.
And not only that, when you think of the social determinants of health or medical drivers, people oftentimes think of people on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale. But now, again, I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to the news, with everybody losing, their jobs here, especially with the government. I was a government worker. I know how that benefited me. So now you have people who don't have a job, who had chronic illness, that need extra support. So how do we, regardless of color, it's for everybody, regardless of color, how do we support them? And so we provide those resources as well. And from that, long story short, we ended up establishing our 501c3 nonprofit. We do events in the community. We go out into the community and share information on the symptoms, because again, a lot of times people think that they're normal, but they're common, but they're not normal. And we can point them in the right direction of different resources. Resources like this one online, the Chronic Pain Club, if it's arthritis. But the first step is helping them even, number one, know what autoimmune disease is, and then also getting a diagnosis. So that's the gist of what we do as the AIP BIPOC network.
It's just amazing. It's so nice to have such sort of difficult things that such beautiful things can grow. So and I'm sure you're needed No, more than ever, without going too much into that subject. But what I was going to say is, stress can be shared. Should we just say, even across oceans? So, yeah, we're with you. We're with
And
you.
we see that too. We see that too
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot. But us over here, especially Black community, we're just over here line dancing. We're no more stress.
yeah,
No
yeah.
more stress. We're just throw our heads. A lot of us are moving over there. I've been looking. So if you see, if
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
Joel, you're
I'll help you out.
laughing.
I'll help you out. No, no, it's terrible, but I think that's kind of like that's it shows you our approach. Because I had someone, I might have mentioned this on an interview already, but I had someone, a friend of mine in the real world, in person, said every time I watch one of your chronic pain clubs, you're saying things to each other about having some condition. You're laughing about it. I was like, trust me, it's the only way you can cope about it. Because otherwise,
Right.
you'd just be crying. It's
Right.
unfortunately.
So I'm just saying,
Honestly.
we're gonna pop up over there, gonna see me.
Yeah.
Like, Jamie,
Oh,
you're
it's
in
I'm gonna
Europe
use
now.
I'm gonna use you as an example of, because when you were telling your story earlier and laughing after all the conditions, I see, look, it's not just me, other people do it as well.
Gotta laugh so you won't cry, Joel.
Yeah, that's it. Well, if you do make it over here, we can do an in-person podcast, and hopefully the world will be a better place. But that's probably enough said on that.
Mhm.
I want to just give you a couple of minutes, just to, tell people about, if they want to maybe inquire more about what you do, if they may want to look into services, or tell us about what you've got coming up for the year ahead. So, you've been so kind, giving up your time twice now for us. I want you to have that space to tell us about whatever you want to.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm focusing on right now, for the first time, me personally, last year, I did a autoimmune retreat in the south of France. And more information on that is at Joyful Active AIP. But I partner with another AIP coach who is also a chef, a nutritional therapy chef. She has a bread and breakfast, and you get complete meals all week. There's no TV. There's nothing to cause you stress. We are focusing on joyful movement, which is where I come in. As I mentioned earlier, movement changed my life and actually saved me before I knew I needed to be saved. Especially with the brain fog and fatigue, also with the joints issues that I have with the rheumatoid arthritis. And so I kind of guide you through what I mentioned earlier, that bell curve, and finding what's right for you. It's tailored towards you. You do an assessment before you go. It's small groups, so you get one-on-one time. You also get one-on-one time in the kitchen with Jan, learning how to do AIP. She cooks the most amazing breakfast, lunch, and dinners that are fully AIP elimination compliant. So you will leave the retreat feeling better than you did when you came. And so we moved it on my site now. If you go there, it says April, but it's moved to the first week in September. So September 1st through 5th. It's 1,800 euros, but until July 31st. I'm sorry, July 1st. It's early bird and it's $300 off, and that information is on my site. And if you have any questions, any information, or any questions, comments, questions, you can always reach out to me, and I will be more than happy to answer those.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And yeah, I've shared some links whilst you were talking. They will be all in the chat for anyone watching this back. Even if you didn't catch us live, they'll be in the show description as well, if you're watching it or listening to this back on the podcast. But Jamie, thank you so much for just a wonderful guest. And thank you for being so open, so candid, sharing so much about your personal experiences. And it was nice this time around for us to talk about all the work you do, and how you're helping others. So yeah, just thank you for giving up your time and being wonderful. And as always, you're welcome back anytime. If there's anything happens, hopefully not medical, anything professional
No
that happens
problem.
that you want to share with us, then please do come back.
Absolutely. And please follow. I'm going to be doing for the retreat some fitness for limited mobility. So if you have arthritis, joint issues, it's done in a chair. So be sure to follow me on my social media sites. And always, you can contact me through any of those sites on Messenger. I get contacted all the time. If you have any questions, just let me know. Whether it be about AIP or my personal journey, I share everything with everybody.
Brilliant. And that's at Heel Coach, isn't it? Everywhere from last
Yeah,
time.
everywhere on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. You can find me there.
Perfect. Jamie, thank you so much for giving up your time. Enjoy what's left of your Sunday. I really appreciate it, and yeah, keep us posted about your progress. Really, yeah, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Right, guys, I will just bring the music and the chat back in. Thank you for everyone's contribution during that. I really appreciate the comments that come in. And thank you for everyone that asked about around. I think we kind of got Jamie to commit to a second episode when they were with us live last time, because so many of you in the chat were enjoying it. So thank you so much for everyone that got involved. Who have I got to say hello to who joined us whilst we were live? Lauren, Sai, welcome in Amy. Big shout out to people like Sai and Lauren who are channel members. Really appreciate it, guys. As always, the usual comment to say we have no sponsors, we don't run any sponsors, we don't run any ads other than what you see, but YouTube enforces upon us. That music sounds awfully loud. Let me just calm that down. And yeah, we do all this willingly, but it is just the only income we get at all for like the equipment and everything is through channel membership. So thank you so much, really appreciate it. Massive thank you to those guys in chat and anyone that is watching that is also a channel member. If you want to know more about that, you can find it there. That's the QR code, or if you're watching on YouTube, below should be a button that says join, I think, and that'll tell you everything you need to know and how you can get the emotes and all that jazz. So thank you for everyone who joined. Lauren, such a wonderful conversation. Yeah, it just, I don't know, there's certain guests where I don't know, it works. And I think with me and Jamie it does. I think that probably says more about Jamie than me. I think their outlook and their approach, and like I said, I was trying to be careful not to repeat stuff we said in the first interview, but for somebody that is bombarded constantly with, you can fix your arthritis if you stop breaking yourself, or you can reverse this, or you can heal this, like my knees are going to magically repair themselves after having arthritis since I was 10 years old. You know, there are so many messages like that come in to my DMs, like completely not requested or asked for. There's a word for that and I've gone blank, so good old brain fog. What's the word for when you don't ask for something? What's happened to me? It's a Sunday night, guys. It's been a long week. It's been a long and stressful work week. We've streamed 3 times on Twitch. We're here on Sunday night. But anyway, we'll move on, even though it's going to really annoy me. But yeah, you know, that stuff is coming into my DMs every day about how it's either something I did, or, you know, and there are elements. I'm well aware that there are elements of my diet, or my sleep could be better and all this sort of stuff. But telling me I'm causing it is not going to fix it, or that I can, or give me that false hope that we can wind the clock back somehow. Like, I'm 40 years old. I ain't going back to playing rugby, arthritis or no arthritis. Just that I would break in half if I went and tried and do that now. So it's about having those honest conversations with you, and like Jamie was saying, it's like having them tools in your toolbox and to understand why you know where the bits fit. Anyway, I'm waffling now, so you can clearly tell that I just went into the red. You could have literally have picked the moment, I think, in the stream where my fatigue kicked in at about 3 minutes ago. I'm so glad, for Jamie's sake, it was after the interview. Thank you for all the lovely comments, guys. Thank you for all the people that have started joining us on a regular, who are new to the channel but are now sort of become a part of the furniture. Thank you for all the people that had us on in the background and lurked during that. If you haven't done so already, please give the video a thumbs up. Go follow the channel if you've not done so on YouTube already. If you are watching like on Facebook and LinkedIn, firstly, thank you. We don't always get all the reactions and everything come through, but if you are, thank you very much, really appreciate it. If you missed it, if you've just tuned in, as soon as I end the stream, the whole thing will be up, warts and all. You can watch the whole thing from start to finish, and we actually get a lot more, like, that is our, out of the live stream, the rerun as we call it, which is when I go offline and the thing goes up, and the edited interview. Out of all of those 3, it's the rerun that people watch the most. So so thank you for everyone that does that and supports the channel. And we're not here next Sunday. I'm taking a break next Sunday. And then we'll be back for one episode in April, just to make you aware. I'm going to a couple of conferences and things like that. I've got some training I'm doing as well. So I've got lots on personally in April. So we only have got one Chronic Pain Club in April. But if you want to get involved, if you'd like to be on the show, if either you've got a story of lived experience to tell, you're doing great stuff in the advocacy world, you may be involved with a patient organization, or you're a researcher, medical professional, academic, who is in that field of, involving the patient, lived experience, shared decision making, multidisciplinary care, all that sort of stuff. If you're involved in any of that and you'd like to be on the show, do get in touch with me. And what I would say is we get lots of people now send in, oh, you should have this guest. And they tend to be generic market and PR people. So if you want my attention, use my name and reference the show, and maybe demonstrate that you actually aren't just sending this out to thousands of people as part of a PR firm, because we get a lot now. And if they just start with hello, or this person would be a great guest for your show, and they haven't even used my name, then they're going straight in the bin. So if you are genuine and you want to get involved, just make sure you're using my name at the start of the email, or you're just reference something on the show so I know that you've actually watched it once. That'd be great. And then I can sort out the genuine from the noise. But it's a good thing, if the channel's at that place now where people are asking to get people on to advertise their new book or talk about their upcoming whatever it is, we must be getting noticed, because we are somehow on those lists now. But it does mean hundreds of emails for me to wade through. So if you want to get involved on the show in May, June and July, please get in touch now so we can get you booked in. We've got some great guests coming up over the next couple of months. But like I say, April will be a bit quiet. That's probably enough from me. As Oz pointed out, I'm probably waffling at this stage. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I won't see you next weekend, but you'll be able to find me over on Twitch. And yeah, until then, enjoy what's left of your weekend. I hope your Monday is a kind one. If there's something anxiety inducing about it, like I've got a little bit coming up this week, try and lean into peer support, try and use distraction, all those things that we promote on this channel. And I hope us having these conversations has helped someone out there a little bit. Until next time, guys, enjoy yourselves, take care, and speak soon. Bye-bye.